So, you've probably heard about the EU's AI Act, right? It's one of the most ambitious pieces of tech regulation ever written. But buried deep inside that massive rulebook is a single, incredibly powerful rule that basically acts as a gateway to the rest of the world. Today, we're going to unpack the story of that rule, Article 39.
Okay, just think about this for a second. An AI model can be built in one country, trained on data in another, and then used by someone in a completely different part of the world. This creates a huge regulatory puzzle. Who is actually responsible for checking that it's safe, that it's fair, and that it's trustworthy? And this isn't some far-off hypothetical question. It's the reality of how AI gets built today.
And the EU's answer to that puzzle? Well, it's pretty much all packed into this one crucial article. Article 39 is the bridge, the connection point between the EU's super strict standards and the entire global AI industry. It's the rule that decides how AI from outside the Union can enter one of the world's biggest and most valuable markets.
But here's the thing, this elegant solution didn't just appear overnight. Nope, it was hammered out over 3 years of really intense debate between the EU's most powerful institutions. So let's take a look at how this critical piece of the puzzle actually took shape.
It all kicked off back in 2021 with a pretty straightforward idea from the European Commission. They basically said, hey, let's authorize foreign AI inspectors based on diplomatic agreements. Simple enough. But then in 2022, the European Parliament stepped in and said, hold on, let's think bigger, pushing for a more global approach using international standards. Later that year, the EU Council pushed back, wanting to streamline the whole thing and tie it directly to the EU's own internal rules. And for more than a year, these different ideas were debated until, finally, a compromise was reached in early 2024.
And you can really see the journey right here. The proposal went from this kind of vague concept, just an agreement, to a much more solid and robust framework. The final version still needs that diplomatic agreement, but now it adds specific, enforceable conditions before any foreign AI inspector gets the green light.
And that whole evolution, that whole back and forth, was all about trying to solve one fundamental dilemma that was right at the heart of the entire negotiation. This was the central problem. On one hand, the EU absolutely wants to be a major player in the global AI market. It wants to foster trade and innovation. But on the other hand, it has these non-negotiable standards on safety, fundamental rights, and ethics. So, how do you welcome the world's best technology without compromising your own core values?
The deadlock, the thing that finally got everyone to agree, was broken by these 7 little words. This short phrase, added late in the game, created the exact flexibility they needed. It was the elegant compromise that bridged the gap between protecting the EU market and opening it up to the world.
And what it created was essentially a system with 2 different pathways. You can almost think of it as a global passport for AI systems that want to get into the EU.
So the final rule gives non-EU countries 2 clear options. The first one is direct compliance. It's exactly what it sounds like. You just play by the EU's exact rules, word for word. But the second pathway is equivalent compliance. And this is for countries that have their own strong regulations, but can prove that their standards are just as robust and just as safe as the EU's. It's a really flexible system designed to work with all sorts of different legal frameworks around the globe.
Now, this 2-pathway solution isn't just some clever piece of lawmaking. It actually has massive implications for the entire world.
This is where we see a powerful phenomenon you may have heard of, the Brussels effect. We saw it happen with data privacy and GDPR, and we're seeing it again with AI. Because the EU is such a massive and lucrative market, global companies often find it's just easier to adopt the EU's high standards for all their products, instead of making different versions for different places. And just like that, EU rules have a way of becoming the default global rules.
And Article 39 is basically designed to trigger this exact effect. It creates this huge incentive for countries around the world to align their own AI rules with the EU's principles. And by creating a clear pathway into the market, it actually reduces trade barriers, while also shaping how international standards bodies think about AI safety. Ultimately, what it does is establish a global model for how to regulate AI, one that tries to perfectly balance open trade with public safety.
So when you boil it all down, Article 39 is way more than just a technical rule for inspectors. It's the EU's main tool for exporting its vision of trustworthy AI to the rest of the globe. Which leaves us with a final, really fascinating question to think about. Is this the moment the world starts to follow one single set of rules for artificial intelligence?